Every financial story teaches something. Today's story begins with Helen Whitfield. Helen never thought a phone call could feel like a countdown clock. She'd spent 30 years grading essays, calming nervous students, handling far worse than a stranger's voice on the other end of a line. But this call was different, because the voice on the phone said 3 words that made her stomach drop. "This is the IRS." Helen had just retired the year before. Mornings were slower now. Coffee on the porch, a garden she'd finally had time for. She was refilling the bird feeder when the phone rang. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. She didn't. The man on the line said his name was Agent Michael Reeves. He said her social security number had been linked to fraudulent tax filings in another state. He said there was a warrant being processed right now, unless she resolved the balance before the end of the business day. His voice never wavered. He knew her full name. He recited numbers back to her the way a bank teller might recite an account. Helen felt her hands go cold. He told her the only way to stop the warrant was to buy gift cards, a specific store, a specific amount, and read him the codes on the back over the phone. She almost did it. And that's exactly the moment worth pausing on, because it's the single most important thing to remember about this whole story. The IRS does not call taxpayers out of nowhere and demand payment. First contact almost always comes by mail, a letter sent through the regular postal service before anything else happens. The IRS doesn't leave urgent, pre-recorded voicemails. It doesn't threaten arrest over the phone. And it never, under any circumstance, asks for payment in gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency. Helen didn't know any of that yet. What she knew was that a man with a badge number and her social security number was telling her she had until 5 o'clock. What stopped her wasn't confidence. It was one small hesitation. She asked for a callback number, and something about the way he refused, the pressure in his voice when she pushed back, didn't sit right with her. She hung up, and she called the IRS directly, using the number printed on an old tax document she still had in a drawer, not the number the caller had given her. There was no warrant. There was no case. There was no Agent Michael Reeves. What Helen experienced is one of the fastest growing forms of fraud aimed at retirees in the country. Scammers rely on 3 things working together: urgency, authority, and fear. They know that a stranger claiming to represent the government, combined with a deadline, short-circuits the instinct to slow down and verify. In recent years, some of these calls have even used AI-generated voices designed to sound calm and official, making them harder to tell apart from something real. The truth is simpler than the fear the caller wanted her to feel. The real IRS sends a letter first. If there's ever a question about whether a notice is genuine, a taxpayer can log into their own IRS online account or call the IRS directly using the number on an old tax return, never the number given by the caller. Helen reported the call to the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, the office that investigates exactly this kind of impersonation. She forwarded the details, and she went back to her garden. Helen didn't lose any money that day, not because she was an expert, because she paused long enough to ask one question the scammer didn't want her to answer. Fear moves fast, verification moves slower, and that's exactly the point. The IRS will never call you out of nowhere and demand immediate payment. It will never ask for gift cards. It always contacts you by mail first. Financial protection rarely begins with money. It begins with knowledge. I'm Daniel Brooks. This is American Financial Stories. Knowledge is your first line of financial protection.